Hello everybody, in this video we will talk about simple random sampling. We will learn how to obtain a simple random sample. The random sampling is the process of using chance to select individuals from a population to be included in the sample. If convenience is used to obtain a sample, the results of the survey are meaningless. A sample of size n from a population of size n is obtained through simple random sampling if every possible sample of size n has an equally likely chance of occurring. The sample is then called a simple random sample. Here is an example to illustrate that. Suppose a study group consists of 5 students: Bob, Patricia, Mike, Jan, and Maria. 2 of those students must go to the board to demonstrate a homework problem. List all the possible samples of size 2 without replacement. So we can have Bob and Patricia go to the board to illustrate the homework problem, or Bob and Mike, or Bob and Jan, or Bob and Maria, or Patricia and Mike, or Patricia and Jan, or Patricia and Maria, or Mike and Jan, or Mike and Maria, or Jan and Maria. So if I was doing that, if I asked 5 students to work on a homework and I wanted to ask 2 students to illustrate that, I might choose to use a randomizing software to choose my sample of 2 people out of those 5. So here are the steps that I will follow. First, we need to obtain a frame that lists all the individuals in the population of interest. And then I'm going to number those individuals from 1 to n. In my case, it's going to be from 1 to 5 because I have 5 people in the group. Then I need to choose a software to work with. That could be a random number table or a graphing calculator or a statistical software like Excel. I'm going to generate n numbers where n is the desired sample size. In my case, it's going to be 2 students. So let me show you the process here. I have my student listed, and then I numbered my students. This is an index for the students, so this is the first step. Now, Bob is assigned to number 1, Patricia is assigned to number 2, Mike is assigned to number 3, Jan is 4, and Maria is 5. I want to choose 2 students here, so I'm going to use random, so rand between. And then I'm going to say rand between 1 and 5 because I have the students numbered from 1 to 5. So that is going to give me a number. I'm going to do it again to choose another one. Notice how this is changing. To stop it from changing, I'm going to select both numbers and then I'm going to copy. And then I will paste it in place as values. What this does, it's going to turn the formula into numbers without formulas, so it will stay in place. This is one way of doing it. Notice how I chose 1 and 1, so Bob and Bob, which is not going to be with replacement. So this is actually with replacement. So without replacement, this can't happen. So I'm going to try one more time to generate a nice one. Equals rand between 1 and 5. Okay, now I'm going to select both numbers. I'm going to copy and I will paste in place as values this option right here. So now I have 5 and 1. 5 corresponds to Maria and 1 corresponds to Bob. So the group is going to be Maria and Bob are going to go to the board to illustrate the problem. Let me repeat that one more time. So rand between 1 and 5. And then I'm going to copy this down. All right, now I'm going to copy it and paste it in place as values. Number 1 is Bob. Number 4 is Jan. So I can have Bob and Jan. If I had the same numbers, I just repeat the process again so I don't have that because I'm going to choose without replacement here. If I choose with replacement, I can choose the same person twice. So I don't want that to happen. So I'm choosing without a replacement. So hopefully that illustrates how we're going to use Excel to randomize. And those are the steps that we're going to follow in order to obtain that random sample. Here's another example. The 112th Congress of the United States had 435 members in the House of Representatives. Explain how to conduct a simple random sample of 5 members to attend the presidential luncheon. Then obtain the sample. First, we're going to put the members in an alphabetical order, just to make it a little bit nicer, and then number them from 1 to 435. The second step, we're going to randomly select 5 numbers using a random number generation like Excel. We're just going to use the rand between function in Excel in order to generate 5 numbers. Those steps illustrate how to do that on a different software like TI-84. So after we select the 5 random numbers, we're going to reassign these numbers to the names, just like I did in the previous example that I showed you. So we're going to match them and come up with the 5 members that are going to attend the presidential luncheon. Here are other effective sampling methods. We're going to obtain a stratified sample. We're going to obtain a systematic sample, and we're going to obtain a cluster sample and see the difference between them and the similarities. Hopefully you can see that. A stratified sample is obtained by separating the population into non-overlapping groups called strata, and then obtaining a simple random sample from each stratum. The individuals within each stratum should be homogeneous or similar in some way. If the population can be easily divided into subgroups, then stratified sampling is a good way to do sampling. Let's look at a simple example to explain how we're going to obtain a stratified sample. In 2008, the United States Senate had 47 Republicans and 51 Democrats and 2 independents. The president wants to have a luncheon with 4 Republicans and 4 Democrats and 1 other. So as you can see, here is a group that can be easily separated into 3 separate subgroups. They have the same characteristics. They have 47 Republicans, 51 Democrats, and 2 independents. So their party affiliation is the way they are separated. When you're obtaining a stratified sample, this technique guarantees that all of those subgroups are included. So in this case, the president wants to have a luncheon with 4 Republicans, 4 Democrats, and 1 other. Obtain a stratified sample in order to select members who will attend the luncheon. Now, to obtain the stratified sample, we will conduct a simple random sample within each group. This is, we obtain a simple random sample of 4 Republicans out of the 47, and a simple random sample of 4 Democrats out of the 51 Democrats, and a simple random sample of 1 out of the other from the 100 senators. If you're using TI-84, you're going to use a different seed for the second stratum, or you're going to get the same numbers again. So with Excel, we don't have that issue. The second method is the systematic sampling. A systematic sample is obtained by selecting every kth individual from the population. The first individual selected is the random number between 1 and k. So let's say I have 50 students and I want to choose 5 students from my sample. I want to choose a random sample using systematic sampling method. What I will do, first I want to determine the size of my sample. Maybe I want to find 5 students. I want to get a sample of 5 students. So I'm going to take the population size, which is 50 students, divide that by 5. 50 divided by 5 is 10. Now, to choose the kth number, or the k, I have to choose between number 1 and number 10. So let's say I'm going to choose number 4 randomly. Of course, you're going to use a software to choose that number for you. So let's say I did that using Excel, ran between 1 and 10, and I came up with number 4. So I will let my students enter the class. Each 4th student is going to be picked until I get 5 students. So this is how systematic sample works in simple terms. Here is an application. You could be a control manager, quality control manager, and you want to obtain a systematic sample of 25 bottles coming off a filling machine to verify the machine is working properly. So to design the sampling technique that you can use to obtain the 25 bottles, you can use systematic sampling. First, you need to obtain the population size, which is how many bottles is this machine making. try to estimate that number and then divide that by 25. So when you divide by 25, you're going to get K. Now you're going to choose a number between 1 and K. Let's say that number is 7. So you're going to pick every 7th bottle. That number might be bigger because your population is bigger. So it could be number 70. So you're going to pick every 70 bottle until you end up with 25 bottles. So that is going to be how you use systematic sampling in this case. Here are the steps. Basically, we have 5 steps. If possible, first you're going to approximate the population size. Let's say this is an uppercase N. You're going to determine the sample size desired, which is in lowercase n. Divide the population size by the sample size. This is going to give you the value K. And then randomly select a number between 1 and K. That number is going to be P. Then after that, the sample will consist of the following individuals. So it's going to be individual number P, and then individual number P plus K, and then individual P plus 2K, and etc. So you're going to pick every kth person, kth individual in your sample until you end up with n individuals on your sample, and you're done sampling. A cluster sample is obtained by selecting all individuals within a randomly selected collection or group of individuals. Here is an example. A school administrator wants to obtain a sample of students in order to conduct a survey. She randomly selects 10 classes and administers a survey to all of the students in the class. Here is a visual of all of the sampling techniques. So for simple random sampling, we use a software to pick individuals from the population. And then stratified sampling, we break down the population into groups and then choose a certain number of individuals out of each group. These groups have to share the same characteristics. In this picture, we see that they group them by gender. Systematic sampling, you're going to select every kth individual, and we know now how to do that. Cluster sampling, you have the population, and then you take this population, you cluster it into groups, and then you randomly select the clusters. So you're going to select each cluster, not individuals from each cluster or group. The stratified and cluster samples are different. In stratified sample, we divide the population into 2 or more homogeneous groups. Then we obtain a simple random sample from each group. In a cluster sample, we divide the population into groups, obtain a simple random sample of some of the groups, and survey all of the individuals in the selected groups. A convenience sample is one in which the individuals in the sample are easily obtained. Any studies that use this type of sampling generally have results that are suspect. Results should be looked upon with extreme skepticism.